Hi, in this video, I will walk you through how you can transform a large data set into meaningful insights using pivot tables. If you're wondering what a pivot table is, it is a tool within Excel with which you can summarize a large data set. Now take a look at this data set. This is a sales data of a consumer durable retail company. Let us say you work in this company as a sales or a business analyst. Now, the management wants to know few key things from this data. Let us look at how you can convert these informations into valuable insights. If you want to practice along with me, you can download the Excel file I'll be working with from the link in the description below. So firstly, before inserting pivot table or applying any data analytical tools, it is a best practice that you convert a normal data range into a table formatting. To convert a normal range into a table, just click on any of the cell within the range and press Ctrl T. Click on OK. Now that essentially has converted our range into a table formatting. Now let me rename my table name into sales data. Alright. Now to insert a pivot table, head to insert tab and you can create a pivot table by clicking on this pivot table button over here. Alternatively, to insert a pivot table super quick, press Alt N V T in a sequential manner and click on OK. That way we have created a pivot table successfully. And this is the ground where we will be playing around. Now we will move on to the questions which we'll try to answer using pivot table. So the first thing we want to find out is the revenue by city. For that, I'm just dragging the city and dropping it into rows. And similarly, sale value into values field. That has essentially summarized the entire data set into revenue by city. Now we will just go ahead and change the number formatting. To do so, do a right click on any of the numbers. Go to number format. Again number. I don't want any decimal places, so I'll go with 0. And we'll add separators. Click on OK. Now we will also sort this pivot table by value. Right click. Sort largest to smallest. With this pivot table, now we know Chennai is actually the highest contributor to the overall revenue, followed by Hyderabad and Pune. Alright. So the second thing we want to find out is the revenue by city tier. Now instead of creating a new pivot table, let me copy paste the existing pivot table here and we'll do few tweaks around here. So I'll just remove the city and I'll add the city tier into the rows. Great. We will move on to the third one. Here we want to find out the revenue by stores age. Let me just quickly copy paste the existing pivot table. Under the rows, remove the city tier and I'll add the stores age instead, which essentially consolidates the revenue by mature stores and new stores respectively. From here, let us say I want these numbers to be presented in percentages as well. So for that, we will add another column over here where the sales value is represented in terms of percentage of overall sales. So for that, drag the sales value and drop into the values field again. Now we will convert one of these columns into percentages. Do a right click there. Go to show values as. Click on percentage of grand total. So now it is a bit easier to understand. So basically around 92% of sales is coming from mature stores and around 8% of sales is coming from the new stores. Alright. So whatever the examples which we have seen till now are pretty straightforward. We will now move into solving slightly advanced queries. So the fourth query is to segregate revenue and gross profit by product. And we'll also try calculating average gross margin percentages using calculated field feature. So here is an empty pivot table which I've created already. We will go ahead and add product into rows, sale value into the values, and gross profit as well. Now the only thing left is to calculate an average gross profit margin percentage. We do have that gross margin percentage in our data set. We will add it for now. Currently, it is sum of all gross profit margin percentage. We have to change it into an average. For that, click on the gross profit margin percentage. Click on value field settings. Here, we will change it into an average. Now, I'll click on the number format, percentages, and we'll click on OK. OK again. Now, we've got the average gross margin percentage. But this number is pretty meaningless. The reason is when we change it into an average in the value field settings, what Excel essentially does is it just sums up all the gross margin percentage and it divides by number of rows, which is not a pretty accurate number we are looking for. So we just go ahead and calculate weighted average percentage on our own. I'll just remove it for now. Go to Pivot Table Analyze tab. Click on Fields, Items and Sets. Click on Calculated Fields. Now input any name for this measure. I'll rename it into weighted average gross margin percentage. Now the formula is going to be gross profit divided by sales. So I'll just insert gross profit and I'll divide it by sales. And I'm clicking on add and I'm clicking on OK there, which derives the weighted average gross margin percentage. Now we will change it into a percentage format. So I'm just doing a right click there, number format, percentage, and I'll just click on OK there. So this is the number we were actually looking for. And this is how you can calculate your own measure using your own custom formulas with calculated field feature. Coming to number 5, we are required to summarize revenue by month. And also we will calculate month-on-month revenue growth rate. For that, firstly, I'll drag and drop date into the rows. So if you notice, Excel has automatically created days and months. So we'll just remove the days and the date as well, and we will leave the month alone. Now, we will drag and drop the sales into values field. We will drag and drop the sales value again. And now, essentially, we are going to convert one of these columns into month-on-month growth rate. So I'm just doing a right click there. I'm clicking on show values as. Click on percentage difference from. Now, the first month is going to be Jan. So I'm clicking on January and I'm clicking on OK there. Now, we got the month-on-month growth rate. So essentially, February's revenue has actually grown 8.68% from January. Alright. Moving to the final section, we will now slice and dice the revenue by month and by product category. For that, I'll add the months into the columns and product category into rows, and I'll add sales value into the values field. Now, we got our revenue sliced and diced based on month and by product category. So if you take a look at this pivot table, you would notice there are a whole lot of numbers. So we will just convert or round off it to nearest millions, and we will add visuals on top of it to make it more presentable and bit easier to read. So we are going to round off these into millions using calculated field option. So I'm going to pivot table analyze and I'm clicking on fields, items and sets, calculated fields, rename it into revenue in millions. So the formula is going to be sales value divided by 10 raised to 6. And I'm clicking on add and I'm clicking on OK there. Now we'll just remove the sum of sales value because it is no longer required. I'm doing a right click, number format, numbers, limit it to 2 decimal places. We'll use the separators as well. and I'm clicking on OK there. Now we got the revenues in millions. Let me just adjust the column widths. Now to add visuals, select the range, go to conditional formatting, click on data bars and pick any of the style you like. I'll just go with this one. Now if you notice, there will be a small icon over here. Click on it and select the last option. Now the pivot table looks more presentable and bit easier to understand as well. So now looking at the data bars, let us say we can conclude the air conditioner sales is increasing right from March to all the way up to June. So typically in India, these months belong to summer season. So that could be one of the reason. And if you see, there is a sales dip in the month of August. The sales are increasing in the month of September. That could be due to pre-festive season. So this you can draw your own conclusions or analysis by combining pivot tables and visuals together. Great. I'll just leave you with one final tip here. Let us say you add more data to this data set, and to get this pivot table updated, all you need to do is just a right click and click on refresh. So that essentially updates the pivot table if you had inserted more rows or more data to the data set. When we did the refresh, you would have noticed the column widths getting adjusted automatically, and we don't want that to happen. So we'll just do a right click, go to pivot table options and uncheck this particular option. So now we'll adjust the column widths manually and we'll try refreshing it. Now when we did a refresh, the column widths did not get adjusted automatically and they are intact.